Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we try to cut through the noise, get straight to the insights. Today, we're plunging into something pretty fascinating, politically speaking. It's this idea of a quiet but, well, persistent erosion of voter support for Donald Trump. Now, our mission today, just to be clear, isn't about taking sides. Not at all. We're here to rigorously examine the dynamics, the sentiment, based on the analysis we've gathered. We're hoping to uncover some really compelling insights. These are drawn from a whole collection of reports, different analyses, and they all seem to point towards this subtle but potentially significant shift.
And I think what's really essential to grasp right from the start is that the idea of voters rethinking their choices, that's not exactly new in politics, is it?
No, definitely not. Happens all the time.
Right. But what we seem to be seeing here, or what the material suggests anyway, feels distinct. It's not just, fleeting buyer's remorse. It's being identified in some analyses as a more significant and sustained trend than previously observed.
Significant and sustained.
Yeah. Think of it less like a sudden U-turn and more like a slow burn of regret. That's a phrase that comes up. It's like it's quietly smoldering beneath the surface.
A slow burn of regret. Okay, that's a powerful image.
And it could have these profound, long-term implications for the political landscape.
That phrase, slow burn, it really does distinguish it from something, I don't know, more dramatic, right? We're not talking about some sudden mass exodus of voters just abandoning ship overnight.
No, exactly. That's not the picture emerging.
It sounds much more gradual, almost.
Yeah.
Imperceptible day to day.
Precisely. The gradual nature is absolutely key. The analysis often describes it as cracks appearing in the once solid foundation of his support.
Cracks, okay. Not a collapse.
Not a collapse, not a full-blown repudiation, as one source put it. And what's particularly striking, I think, is that this doesn't seem to be just a momentary dip in the polls, or some reactive blip because of a news cycle.
Right.
It's being framed as this persistent, significant, and sustained trend. And that's why it warrants a closer look. It kind of speaks to a deeper, maybe more fundamental reassessment happening in the minds of, at least a segment of the electorate. It's a subtle change accumulating over time, not a sudden shockwave.
Okay, so if it is this quiet, slow motion kind of shift, what's actually causing it? What are the underlying forces making people feel this growing unease? What's driving this quiet reconsideration among folks who voted for him before?
Yeah, good question.
The sources we looked at, they really seem to zero in on maybe three main buckets: economic anxiety, some dissatisfaction with policies, and then this bigger thing, political polarization.
That sounds right. Let's maybe unpack the first two first.
Yeah.
Economic anxiety and policy dissatisfaction.
Okay.
I mean, it's fair to say many voters were initially drawn in by promises of, economic revival, prosperity.
Big promises.
Big promises.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing reported now across various analyses is that things like persistent inflation, ongoing economic uncertainty, they've left some feeling a pretty profound sense of disappointment.
Disappointment, or even betrayal.
Betrayal is a strong word, but maybe for some it feels like that. It's not just about the general state of the economy either. It's this perceived gap, this chasm between the bold assurances that were made and the lived economic reality for many families.
Right, like the kitchen table issues.
Exactly. And then there's the policy side. Take something like comprehensive immigration reform, or the promise of a universally embraced replacement for the Affordable Care Act.
Right. Those were key issues.
Very key. And for voters who really prioritize those specific areas, seeing what they perceive as a lack of progress, it seems a sense of disillusionment has crept in. It slowly chips away at their confidence.
So it's that gap again, expectation versus perceived delivery.
Yeah. That gap seems to really fuel this simmering regret we're talking about.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, when expectations aren't met, especially on those core pocketbook issues, it's pretty natural for people to start questioning things. But you mentioned it's not just about economic numbers or specific laws. You also brought up political polarization. How does that fit into this quiet erosion?
Right. Well, if we try and connect this to the broader political climate, the intense polarization we've seen in recent years, that seems to be a significant and maybe sometimes overlooked contributor here.
How so?
One really compelling insight that keeps popping up in the analysis is this idea of exhaustion.
Exhaustion, political exhaustion.
Yeah, political exhaustion. Many voters, maybe folks who were initially drawn to a disruptive approach, saw it as necessary to shake things up.
Right, shake up the system.
Exactly. But now they find themselves genuinely exhausted by the constant battles and divisiveness.
Huh. So it's not necessarily a change in their core beliefs.
Not necessarily, no. It
Right.
seems more like a profound weariness, just tired of the perpetual high-stakes conflict.
I could see that.
I mean, imagine the relentless news cycles, right? The heated social media stuff, the constant sense of political crisis. It's like a pressure cooker.
It really is.
And this isn't just fatigue. It's described almost as a form of political burnout, where the sheer volume of conflict just starts to feel counterproductive.
Yeah, diminishing returns.
Exactly. And for some, this seems to lead to a subtle reevaluation of their choices. Maybe a desire for a less confrontational type of politics, or even just looking for leadership that promises, I don't know, a degree of calm.
That's a really crucial distinction, actually. The experience of the political climate itself weighing on people, not just their policy views. It suggests even, staunch supporters can hit a kind of saturation point with constant antagonism.
Okay, so this brings up a pretty challenging question then. How on earth do you measure something as, well, intangible as a shift in mood or quiet regret? How do you quantify this slow burn if it's not loud and obvious? That's tricky, isn't it? It absolutely is. Yeah, it's really challenging. And it demands a multifaceted approach, a nuanced one. The analyses we looked at, they dig into several pretty sophisticated methods. We're talking about, first, careful examination of polling data.
Okay, but not just the headline numbers.
No, definitely not just the top-line approval ratings. It's about digging deeper, looking at the intensity of support.
Intensity, like strongly approved versus somewhat approved.
Exactly. Researchers look for shifts like that. Or maybe an increase in undecided responses where there used to be firm commitment, especially within his, core-based demographics.
Okay, so polling nuances. What else?
Well, beyond traditional polling, there's social media sentiment analysis.
Right. Listening to the chatter online?
Sort of, yeah. But using advanced tools, natural language processing, to track changes in the tone of online discourse. Are people moving from, say, passionate defense to more nuanced expressions? Maybe weariness, disappointment, even quiet critique, especially among groups known to be supporters.
Fascinating. And the third?
The third piece is anecdotal evidence. Things like interviews, focus groups. This gives you the qualitative depth, allows researchers to actually hear directly from voters about how their feelings might be evolving, and importantly, why.
So polling intensity, social media tone, and direct interviews.
Right, and putting it all together. Look, the data is incredibly complex. It requires really meticulous analysis to separate these subtle shifts from just, random noise.
Sure.
But what seems clear from the analysis is that a decline in the intensity of support, even if it doesn't immediately mean they're voting for someone else,
Right.
it still profoundly signifies a growing unease, a questioning, perhaps, of the established political narrative for them.
So it's an indicator.
It's a strong indication of a longer-term change in perception, almost like tectonic plates subtly shifting beneath the surface.
Okay, so we're seeing these indicators through these different analytical tools. They're painting this picture of gradual unease. But then the really big question emerges, I think, for you listening. What does this actually mean going forward? Who exactly seems to be feeling this regret more acutely? And what are the bigger implications for the political landscape?
Yeah, the so what question. Well, the emerging data, and it's still being refined, of course, but it does offer some compelling insights into who might be feeling this more strongly.
Okay.
There are indications, for instance, that a stronger sense of regret might be observed among certain demographics.
Such as?
We're seeing some pointers towards suburban voters, for example. They often have to balance economic concerns with maybe a desire for stability, less divisive rhetoric, perhaps.
Makes sense.
Similarly, those voters who initially prioritized economic issues above all else in their decision, well, they might be feeling this regret more acutely if their personal financial expectations haven't really panned out.
So, suburban voters, economically focused voters, maybe feeling the pinch or seeing less progress than hoped for.
It appears they might be more susceptible to this quiet reconsideration, based on what we're seeing.
And crucially then, does this regret, this quiet reconsideration, does it automatically mean they switch sides? Does it translate into support for other candidates, or is it more complicated?
That's the nuance we really have to highlight. And the sources are pretty clear on this. Not necessarily, not automatically.
Okay.
Many voters who are experiencing this quiet regret, they might simply become disillusioned, less politically engaged overall. They might just choose to step back from the whole process.
Check out, basically.
Check out, Or Others might shift their support, but maybe not to the opposing party. They might look for different candidates within the same party.
Ah, okay. Alternatives.
Alternatives, exactly. Someone who offers maybe similar ideological stance, but perhaps a different tone, a different approach.
So it's a potential reshuffling within the existing structure, or maybe detachment rather than some mass defection.
That seems to be a more likely scenario described in the analysis, yes. But ultimately, the broader impact is still significant.
How so?
Well, this gradual erosion of support,
Yeah.
even if it's quiet, it could still have really far-reaching consequences down the line. It could potentially impact future election outcomes, obviously.
Right.
It could possibly lead towards a more moderate political climate over time, maybe, or even contribute to a larger realignment of political allegiances.
Oh, realignment.
Yeah. And it raises this really important question for all of us observing politics. How can these subtle, gradual shifts, the ones often overlooked in the day-to-day news frenzy, how can they accumulate to create really considerable, impactful consequences later on, potentially reshaping the whole political landscape?
Wow, what a deep dive today. It feels like our exploration into this quiet erosion of voter support really shows it's not some sudden dramatic thing.
Yep.
Instead, it's this much more multifaceted, slow burn phenomenon, right? Driven by these distinct economic anxieties, disappointments with specific policies maybe, and just the sheer exhaustion people feel from the intense political polarization.
That sums it pretty well.
And understanding these nuanced shifts, these often quiet shifts in public opinion, it feels incredibly valuable, especially when they aren't the things dominating the headlines every single day.
Absolutely.
They offer some pretty profound insights, I think, into the evolving dynamics of how voters feel and the underlying currents of political change.
Indeed. And maybe for you, our listener, here's just a final provocative thought to mull over.
Okay.
How often do we, as observers, get fixated on the loud stuff, the dramatic political events, the really outspoken opinions, and maybe we overlook these quiet shifts in public sentiment?
Good point.
I mean, what other seemingly stable political landscapes or even social landscapes might be experiencing similar, barely perceptible erosions right now? Things that are poised to reshape our future in ways we haven't maybe fully anticipated yet.
That's a powerful thought.
It's just a reminder, I suppose, to always try and look beyond the surface noise, beyond the loudest voices, and pay attention to the murmurs sometimes.
Pay attention to the murmurs. I like that. Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep observing, keep questioning, and keep exploring the complex world around you. We'll catch you next time.